In Lesson 4.2, we're going to work on making reasonable estimates for products. Product is the answer when you multiply. You will need your whiteboard marker and eraser, your math journal, and if you haven't learned those facts yet and memorized them, you will need a multiplication chart. Let's go ahead and start on our whiteboard. We're going to name the first 5 multiples of a given number. Remember, multiples are the answers or the product when you take that number times 1, times 2, and so forth. So, for example, the first 5 multiples of 6 are 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 4 is 24, and 30. Would you go ahead and find the first 5 multiples of 8 and 11? Go ahead and pause the video and complete the first part of our warm-up. For number 1, the first multiple is always the number itself. So 8, 16, 24, 32, and 40. 11s, when you memorize those are pretty easy. 11, 22, 33, 44, 55. Do you see a pattern in that one? That one's an easy one. Go ahead and wipe off your whiteboard. And now you're going to draw a chart. And on the left-hand side, you're going to write centimeters, or the abbreviation for centimeters, and mm for millimeters. Just a reminder that 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. Then go ahead, once you have those headings drawn, go ahead and draw 3 lines across. A little reminder here that the centimeters are the larger numbers and then the millimeters are the small little lines in between, and there are 10 millimeters for every centimeter. So in this place, put 9 centimeters, 12 centimeters, then we'll fill in millimeters. Let's do 40 millimeters. And lastly, let's put 57. Now, when we are moving from centimeters to millimeters, we're going to multiply by 10. So the first 2 are fairly simple, just an extended fact. What is 9 times 10? 90. 9 centimeters would be the same as 90 of those little lines. 12 times 10, well, 12 times 1 is 12 with 1 0 behind it. Now, when we move in the opposite direction, we are doing the opposite operation, or the inverse. We're dividing by 10. So 40 millimeters would be how many centimeters? 4. Sometimes they're not multiples of 10. So we know that 5 centimeters would be 50 millimeters, and 6 centimeters would be 60 millimeters. So therefore, we must have, a decimal. So we have 5 full centimeters and 7/10 of another one. All right. Today we're just working on estimating. So here we have some real world data, and it's about how much Americans eat. They had the U.S. Department of Agriculture conduct surveys to find out how much food Americans eat on average. They asked a large number of people to keep a list of all the foods they ate over a period of several days. These lists are then used to estimate how much of each food was eaten during 1 year. Americans eat on average more than 2,000 pounds of food per year. And just to remind you that there are 365 days in a year. This is about 5.5 pounds of food per day. The most current results show that Americans eat or drink about the following average amounts of these foods in 1 year. So for example, if I were to figure out my family of 6 people, that includes my daughter-in-law now, I would just estimate if I found out about how many apples or pounds of apples we eat in a year, I would take the 48 apples that each person on average eats, And obviously some eat more, some eat less. That's why they ask a large number of people. I'm going to round that to 50. There are 6 people in my family, so I would take 5 times 6 is 30 and add my 0 on the end. So as a family, we eat approximately 300 pounds of apples in a year. Now you can see why groceries cost so much money. We're here going to work in our math journal today, so go ahead and open to page 108. And at the top it says finding estimates and evaluating answers. Today we're just going to do the estimation for the sake of time, my video not getting too long. We're just going to estimate. Write an estimate and show your thinking. Use a calculator to solve the problem. We won't worry about that, but I will tell you the actual answer. Check that your answer is reasonable based on your estimate. So a housefly beats its wings about 190 times per second. A wasp can beat its wings about 400 times per second. How many more times does a wasp beat its wing in 1 minute compared to a housefly? So we're figuring out difference. Notice that it gives us its beating wings in seconds, but asks for our answer in minutes. So the first thing I'm going to do, and you're going to do this on journal page 108. So I'm just going to put F for fly. 190 times per second. Let's estimate that to make it easy to multiply. Is 190 closer to 100 or 200? 200. And we know that there are 60 seconds in a minute. And because it's a multiple of 10, it's really easy to multiply. I don't have to do anything to that number. 200 times per second, 60 seconds in a minute. 2 times 6 is 12 with 1, 2, 3 zeros behind it. So in a minute, a fly will beat its wings about 12,000 times. Now put a W for a wasp. A wasp beats its wings 400 times per second. That's already a multiple of 100, so it's easy to multiply. Don't have to do anything to that. Times 60 seconds in a minute. Now I'll multiply. 4 times 6 is 24, and 1, 2, 3 zeros behind it. Now we're asked to figure out the difference between 24,000 and 12,000. In order to figure out difference, you have to subtract. The difference is about 12,000 times. Now, the actual answer is 12,600. So would our answer be reasonable? Yes, because it's close to the estimate. And again, at any point in time, if you find that I'm moving too quickly, especially with writing, go ahead and pause the video and complete it before you move on to the next one. That's a lot of beats per minute. That's crazy. Number 2, the best cows give about 400 cups of milk every day. The best goats give about 8 cups every day of milk every day. About how many more cups of milk will a cow give in 1 year than a goat? Again, it's telling us per day, but it's asking for our answer in a year. So just remember, there are 365 days in a year. So we're going to start with the cow. So I'm going to put C for cow. And 400 is really easy. I don't have to do anything to that. But now I have to multiply those 400 cups per day times 365. But I want to make it easy, so I'm going to estimate so I don't have an actual answer, but pretty close. So is 365 closer to 300 or closer to 400? It's closer to 400. So this is per day, and there's about 400 days in a year, estimating. So I'm going to take 4 times 4, which is 16, and 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then go ahead and count and put in your comma. A cow gives about 160,000 cups of milk in a year. Now let's go ahead and take a goat. Put a G for goat. A goat gives about 8. I think I can keep that at 8 because I'm going to multiply it by the 400 approximately days in a year. Now I'm going to take my basic fact, 8 times 4 is 32, and go ahead and put in my zeros behind it, 1, 2. So the difference is 160,000 for a cow versus 3,200 for a goat. So what is the difference between those two numbers? I'm going to go ahead and do some subtracting. About 156,800. The actual answer is actually 143,080. So again, our answer is reasonable. It's close to the estimate. And let me write the actual answer behind here so you can see it. The actual answer was 143,080. And when we're talking a number that large, that's pretty close. Let's go ahead and do the last one on that page. A giant anteater eats about 30,000 insects every day. An aardvark eats about 50,000 insects per day. Whew! About how many insects do one giant anteater and one aardvark eat in 1 year? So we're doing them together. Again, it's giving us per day, and we need to convert that to a year. There are 365 days in a year, and we already said that's close to 400 when we're estimating. So let's start with giant anteater. 30,000 is already a number easy to multiply, so I'm going to keep 30,000. But 365 wouldn't be that easy, so I'm going to round that to 400. Now here's where you have to be careful with your zeros. 3 times 4 is 12. Now let's count our zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now count 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3. In a year, an anteater eats 12 million insects every day. Now I'm going to just go underneath for some more room. An aardvark eats about 50,000. We can just leave that as. Times 4, about 400, because 365 I can't do in my head. 5 times 4 is 20. Now count your zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Add 6 zeros behind the 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, comma, 1, 2, 3. Together, how many do they eat? Well, if I just add 12 plus 20, then I can add my zeros behind it. I get 32 with 6 zeros following it. 32 million. I wonder where they get all those insects. The actual answer is 29,200,000. So is that answer reasonable? Yes. Again, it's close to our estimate. So sometimes we don't actually need exact answers. We just need something that's close. So go ahead and finish what you need to for this lesson. And at the very end, I had to include a picture of an anteater, which is right here, and an aardvark right there. So now you know what they look like.